New Year's Eve, a night of celebration, champagne, and fresh beginnings. But for the Caldwell family, it became the stage for a chilling tragedy. In the early hours of January 1, 2015, the serenity of Evergreen Heights was shattered by a single gunshot. Victor Caldwell, a man admired for his success, was found lifeless in his own home. The discovery of his body in the grand foyer, surrounded by opulence and chaos, raised questions that would grip the nation. Was it a crime of passion, a web of manipulation, or something far more sinister? Secrets, lies, and betrayal swirl around this case, leaving a trail of devastation and unanswered questions. Tonight on Silent Crime Case, we unravel the dark truths hidden behind the dazzling facade of wealth and power. Welcome to the story of the Caldwell mystery, where every whisper tells a story, and every revelation leaves you questioning what you thought you knew. In the early hours of January 1, 2015, the serene opulence of Evergreen Heights was shattered by a frantic 911 call. Evelyn Caldwell, breathless and incoherent, cried out for help. Her husband, Victor Caldwell, lay lifeless in the grand foyer of their lavish estate. At 44, Victor was the epitome of power and success, a titan of the business world revered by his peers. Yet this New Year's Eve, meant to symbolize fresh beginnings, ended in bloodshed and tragedy. Victor's body, dressed impeccably in a bespoke tuxedo, was sprawled on the pristine marble floor, a stark red stain blossoming from his chest. Nearby, a silver revolver glinted under the chandelier's subdued light. The mansion, once filled with the laughter of over 50 guests, now stood silent except for Evelyn's anguished cries. She claimed an accident, but her trembling voice and evasive demeanor hinted at something more sinister. The clock had barely struck midnight, and the nightmare had just begun. The Caldwell mansion, with its towering columns and sprawling gardens, was the crown jewel of Evergreen Heights. The remnants of the New Year's celebration littered the space, half-empty glasses, crushed confetti, and scattered hors d'oeuvres. Yet the grandeur was overshadowed by the chilling scene in the foyer. Investigators arrived to find Evelyn, still in her sequined gown, sobbing uncontrollably, her makeup streaked and her composure shattered. Her conflicting statements raised immediate red flags. What was intended to be an evening of celebration turned into the genesis of a twisted tale of betrayal, obsession, and murder. The unraveling of this case would expose the dark secrets hidden behind the Caldwell's perfect facade, leaving no one untouched. When first responders entered the Caldwell estate, the scene they encountered was both dazzling and devastating. The foyer's grandeur, with its marble floors, intricate chandeliers, and sweeping staircase, was starkly contrasted by the grim tableau at its center. Victor's lifeless body lay sprawled on the cold marble, his expensive tuxedo soaked in blood from a fatal gunshot wound to his chest. Beside him, a silver revolver rested, its polished surface gleaming under the flickering light. The stillness of the house was punctuated only by Evelyn's sobs, her trembling hands clutching a glass of water handed to her by an officer. Detectives began their examination, noting signs of a struggle. A chair had been overturned, a champagne flute lay shattered nearby, and faint scuff marks on the marble floor suggested a physical altercation. Yet the chaos seemed contained, almost deliberate, as though staged to mask the truth. Evelyn's demeanor added to the mystery. Though she appeared grief-stricken, her vague recollection of the events leading up to the tragedy left investigators skeptical. She claimed that an argument with Victor had escalated, resulting in a tragic accident. But the details were murky, and her evasive answers hinted at deeper layers of deceit. As forensic experts scoured the scene, they discovered subtle but significant clues. A partial handprint on the revolver's barrel, smudged as though wiped hastily, suggested another presence. Footprints leading away from the foyer to the back entrance added to the intrigue. Neighbors reported hearing muffled voices and a single gunshot around midnight, though no one could confirm who had been inside at the time. The mansion's security cameras had been disabled earlier that evening, a fact Evelyn claimed was a mere coincidence. These inconsistencies deepened the air of mystery surrounding Victor's death. The Caldwell's New Year's Eve party was more than a glittering affair. It was Victor Caldwell's way of cementing his dominance in business and social circles. Invitations had been sent weeks in advance, and the guest list was meticulously curated, featuring prominent figures from Evergreen Heights and beyond. Victor, ever the charismatic host, ensured no expense was spared. The mansion radiated opulence, twinkling fairy lights adorned the garden, a live jazz band played softly in the background, and champagne flowed freely. Yet beneath the grandeur, whispers circulated. Evelyn Caldwell's distant demeanor and Victor's visible tension did not go unnoticed. Among the attendees was Liam Barrett, whose uninvited presence sparked intrigue. Though charming and enigmatic, Liam's reputation for stirring trouble had already made him a divisive figure in the neighborhood. Victor had clashed with him previously over minor disputes, viewing him as an unwelcome disruptor. The tension boiled over around 11:30 p.m. when Victor, Evelyn, and Liam were seen disappearing into the study. Witnesses outside the room heard muffled voices escalate into raised arguments. Evelyn's friend, Sarah Montgomery, later recounted that Evelyn confided in her about a confrontation. She claimed Victor's anger stemmed from knowledge of Evelyn's affair, which Sarah had previously warned her to end. Sarah's role would later prove critical, as it was revealed that she had inadvertently disclosed Evelyn's relationship with Liam to Victor weeks earlier, intensifying his suspicion and setting the stage for the evening's tragic events. When the trio emerged minutes later, the atmosphere was palpably altered. Victor's face was flushed with anger, Liam's expression was unreadable, and Evelyn looked on the verge of tears. The party's celebratory tone dimmed, with guests exchanging nervous glances as midnight approached, unaware of the storm brewing behind closed doors. Liam Barrett's presence at the party was anything but accidental. A newcomer to Evergreen Heights, his charm and wit had quickly made him a favorite among certain circles, though others viewed him with suspicion. For Evelyn, Liam represented an escape from her increasingly stifling marriage. Their connection had grown over months of clandestine meetings, each encounter pulling Evelyn further away from Victor's domineering grasp. But what began as a forbidden romance soon spiraled into something far more dangerous. Liam's charm masked a darker side. As Evelyn tried to create distance, his behavior grew erratic, oscillating between passionate devotion and veiled threats. Her attempts to end their affair only seemed to fuel his obsession. By December, Evelyn confided in her closest friend, Sarah Montgomery, expressing her fears about Liam's increasingly unstable actions. Sarah advised caution, urging Evelyn to sever ties before the situation escalated. Yet, Evelyn's hesitation rooted in fear and lingering affection allowed the tension to fester. Victor, ever perceptive, began to suspect Evelyn's indiscretions. Friends noted his growing irritability and abrupt changes in mood. Though he confronted Evelyn several times, she deflected his accusations, hoping to maintain the fragile illusion of their marriage. Meanwhile, Liam's persistence deepened Victor's animosity, turning him into a volatile force on the night of the party. As midnight approached, the tangled web of secrets, lies, and hidden motives tightened, drawing all three toward an inevitable and violent confrontation. As the countdown to midnight began, the Caldwell's party brimmed with a forced gaiety that masked the simmering tension beneath. Guests gathered on the terrace to watch the fireworks display, but Victor, Evelyn, and Liam were notably absent. Inside the mansion, a storm brewed. Witnesses later pieced together fragmented accounts of the final hours. Around 11:45 p.m., Victor had cornered Liam in the foyer. Their heated exchange escalated rapidly, with voices raised loud enough to draw Evelyn's attention. She intervened, her attempts to defuse the situation only adding fuel to the fire. The confrontation moved to the study, where the trio's argument became even more volatile. Victor's accusations flew, his fury driven by a mix of betrayal and wounded pride. Liam, uncharacteristically composed, delivered calculated responses that only incensed Victor further. Evelyn's pleas for calm fell on deaf ears as the men's animosity reached a breaking point. Shortly before midnight, the argument spilled back into the foyer, where the tragic culmination of the evening's events unfolded. At the stroke of midnight, as fireworks illuminated the night sky, a single gunshot pierced the celebratory cheers. Guests froze, their joy replaced by confusion and dread. Inside, chaos erupted. Evelyn stumbled into the living room, pale and trembling, her sequined gown stained with blood. Victor lay motionless in the foyer, while Liam had vanished without a trace. The celebration had turned into a crime scene, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and shattered lives. As the investigation unfolded, detectives unearthed critical evidence and testimonies that deepened the complexity of Victor Caldwell's death. Surveillance footage from the Caldwell property revealed pivotal moments earlier in the evening. The grainy footage showed Victor, Liam, and Evelyn standing in the backyard, engaged in what appeared to be a heated discussion. Evelyn's frantic gestures and Victor's towering stance hinted at a confrontation, while Liam lingered in the background, his body language tense and defensive. Minutes later, the three were seen re-entering the house, marking the last time Victor was captured alive on camera. Inside the mansion, investigators noted subtle but significant discrepancies. The revolver bore fingerprints from both Evelyn and Liam, but a partially smudged print on the barrel hinted at an attempt to obscure evidence. Forensic experts also uncovered faint traces of blood on the study's doorknob, suggesting the argument had turned physical before escalating to the foyer. Adding to the intrigue, a voicemail left by Victor hours before the party surfaced. Sent to Sarah Montgomery, it was a chilling warning. Victor expressed concerns about Liam's intentions and urged Sarah to watch over Evelyn, a plea that painted him as a man aware of impending danger, but powerless to stop it. The community's whispers added another layer of complexity. Neighbors speculated about Victor's ruthless business practices and whether they had made him enemies. Others hinted at Evelyn's unhappiness, suggesting that jealousy and manipulation were the real motives. Detective Morales focused on these conflicting narratives, piecing together a story where each revelation seemed to raise more questions than answers. As detectives pieced together the fragments of the evening's events, the layers of deception surrounding the Caldwell family began to unravel. Evelyn's portrayal of a devoted wife was contradicted by revelations of her clandestine affair with Liam Barrett. Friends and neighbors painted a starkly different picture of her marriage to Victor, one of control and emotional manipulation. Evelyn's confessions to her closest confidant, Sarah Montgomery, revealed years of dissatisfaction and a longing for escape. Liam, on the other hand, emerged as a complex figure, charismatic yet elusive. His presence in Evergreen Heights had always sparked intrigue. Underneath his charm lay a history of broken relationships and whispered rumors of financial troubles. Interviews with his former acquaintances suggested a pattern of manipulative behavior, leaving a trail of fractured friendships and strained connections. To Evelyn, however, Liam represented freedom, a chance to break away from Victor's suffocating grip. Financial motives also came into play. Just weeks before his death, Victor had made significant changes to his will, leaving the majority of his estate to Evelyn. This decision, coupled with Victor's discovery of Evelyn and Liam's affair, added a sinister undertone to the unfolding narrative. Evelyn's attempts to downplay her relationship with Liam only deepened investigators' suspicions. For Detective Morales, every lie uncovered added another piece to the puzzle. The investigation took a darker turn when it became evident that the events of New Year's Eve were not spontaneous, but the culmination of months of planning and betrayal. As the investigation intensified, Liam Barrett became the focus of a manhunt. After the fatal gunshot, he had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of questions and suspicions. Detectives tracked his movements through witness statements and surveillance footage. Footage from nearby traffic cameras showed Liam's car speeding away from Evergreen Heights around 12:15 a.m., less than 15 minutes after the gunshot was reported. Neighbors described seeing Liam's vehicle parked near the Caldwell estate earlier in the evening, and several guests at the party noted his unusual behavior. One witness recounted seeing Liam pacing in the backyard, his face tense and pale, before re-entering the house moments before the confrontation. Another guest claimed to have overheard Liam and Evelyn arguing in the kitchen earlier in the night, their voices low but filled with urgency. Detectives delved into Liam's past, uncovering a history of erratic behavior and unresolved disputes. Bank records revealed large withdrawals in the days leading up to the party, suggesting he might have been preparing to flee. An ex-girlfriend came forward, describing Liam's controlling tendencies and a pattern of emotional volatility. These insights painted a picture of a man capable of both passion and violence. While Evelyn remained under constant scrutiny, her insistence on Liam's involvement further fueled the hunt. Detective Morales' team expanded their search, issuing an APB and collaborating with state law enforcement. Liam's sudden disappearance and evasive actions solidified his role as a central figure in the case, transforming the investigation into a race against time to find him before more secrets could slip away. As the investigation gained traction, Evelyn Caldwell's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Her initial claims of a tragic accident were met with increasing skepticism as forensic evidence and witness accounts contradicted her narrative. Detective Morales pressed Evelyn on her relationship with Liam Barrett, highlighting glaring inconsistencies. Evelyn's tears flowed freely, but her demeanor shifting between vulnerability and defensiveness suggested she was carefully calibrating her responses. The revelation of Victor's voicemail further weakened Evelyn's position. In the recording, Victor's calm yet foreboding tone described Liam as dangerous and hinted at Evelyn's role in a web of manipulation. This evidence painted Evelyn as a woman whose actions had spiraled out of control, blurring the line between victim and perpetrator. The voicemail also cast Sarah Montgomery in a dubious light. Cross-examination revealed that Sarah, under the guise of concern, had informed Victor of Evelyn's affair weeks before the party. Her betrayal added a new layer of tension to the case, suggesting Evelyn's desperation stemmed from feeling cornered. The media's relentless coverage amplified Evelyn's struggles. Headlines labeled her alternately as a grieving widow and a calculating mastermind. Paparazzi camped outside her estate, capturing every moment of her deteriorating composure. Within Evergreen Heights, Evelyn's social circle distanced themselves, leaving her increasingly isolated. By the time the trial approached, Evelyn was no longer the glamorous figure she once was, but a woman weighed down by scandal, betrayal, and the haunting shadow of her choices. On January 15, 2015, the investigation took an unexpected turn when an anonymous tip reached Detective Morales. The letter, typed and meticulously worded, accused Evelyn of orchestrating Victor's murder with Liam as her accomplice. It described a calculated plan to provoke Victor into a confrontation, ensuring the events of New Year's Eve would unfold in their favor. The letter also hinted at financial motives, referencing the changes to Victor's will and Evelyn's threats to leave him. The tip provided chilling details, some of which aligned with evidence already uncovered by investigators. It mentioned Evelyn's attempts to manipulate Liam, using his feelings for her to gain his cooperation. The letter also suggested that Evelyn had been in contact with a divorce attorney, planning to use Victor's death to secure her future. While the tip was unsigned, its accuracy and specificity raised questions about the sender's identity. Could it have been someone from Evelyn's inner circle, or perhaps a scorned associate of Liam's? Detective Morales viewed the letter as a turning point. While it could not be used as direct evidence in court, it provided new avenues to explore. Evelyn's reactions during questioning, coupled with the contents of the letter, hinted at deeper layers of manipulation and deceit. As Morales' team followed the leads, the investigation entered a critical phase, drawing closer to unraveling the full truth behind Victor's death. Evelyn's carefully constructed facade was beginning to crumble, and the web of betrayal surrounding her grew tighter with each passing day. After weeks of relentless pursuit, Liam Barrett was apprehended on January 20, 2015, in a motel outside San Antonio. His disheveled appearance and evasive answers during his arrest only deepened suspicions about his involvement in Victor Caldwell's death. Detectives found cash, a fake ID, and a loaded handgun in his possession, suggesting he had been preparing to flee the country. His capture marked a turning point in the investigation, as Liam's connection to the crime and Evelyn Caldwell's potential role became the focal point of scrutiny. During his initial interrogation, Liam maintained his innocence but admitted to being present during the fatal confrontation. His version of events painted Evelyn as the orchestrator, claiming she had manipulated him into attending the party despite his reservations. According to Liam, Evelyn had assured him that Victor would be calm, but instead the evening spiraled out of control. He recounted how a heated argument escalated into violence, culminating in the fatal gunshot. While Liam's account shifted blame to Evelyn, his evasiveness and lack of tangible evidence left detectives questioning his credibility. Detective Morales' team focused on discrepancies in Liam's statements. Surveillance footage and witness testimonies contradicted his timeline, suggesting he had been more involved than he admitted. Additionally, forensic evidence linking him to the revolver weakened his claims of innocence. Liam's arrest provided a much-needed breakthrough, but it also introduced new complexities. Was he a pawn in Evelyn's scheme, or a willing participant driven by his obsession with her? The lines between victim and perpetrator blurred, propelling the case toward a climactic conclusion in the courtroom. The trial of Evelyn Caldwell commenced on March 10, 2015, drawing national attention as media outlets dissected every detail of the high-profile case. Evelyn, clad in a modest black dress, entered the courtroom with an air of subdued defiance. Her defense team painted her as a victim of circumstance, arguing that she had been trapped in a toxic marriage with Victor and manipulated by Liam Barrett's obsessive behavior. The prosecution, however, presented a damning narrative of premeditated murder, fueled by greed and betrayal. Detective Morales took the stand early in the trial, delivering a meticulous account of the investigation. She outlined the forensic evidence, including the revolver's fingerprints and the gunpowder residue on Evelyn's hands. The prosecution introduced witness testimonies that highlighted Evelyn's erratic behavior on the night of the party, including her desperate attempts to control the narrative in the aftermath. A former housekeeper testified about heated arguments between Evelyn and Victor in the weeks leading up to the murder, painting a picture of a marriage on the brink. The defense countered with emotional appeals, emphasizing Evelyn's claims of abuse and portraying her as a woman driven to desperation. Her lawyers presented emails and texts that hinted at Victor's controlling tendencies, bolstering their argument of a volatile household. However, the prosecution's introduction of the anonymous letter tilted the scales. While the letter's sender remained unknown, its detailed accusations aligned with the evidence, casting doubt on Evelyn's version of events. The courtroom buzzed with tension as the trial unfolded, with each revelation drawing the audience closer to the edge of their seats. As Evelyn's trial progressed, attention shifted to Liam Barrett, whose involvement became increasingly scrutinized. The prosecution unveiled a trove of evidence linking Liam to the crime, including his fingerprints on the revolver and his suspicious actions leading up to the murder. Emails and text messages between Liam and Evelyn painted a complex relationship marked by passion, manipulation, and escalating tension. Liam's own words revealed a man torn between love and desperation, willing to cross lines for Evelyn's sake. Liam's confession during his separate hearing added another layer to the narrative. He admitted to witnessing the fatal confrontation, but claimed he had been powerless to stop it. According to Liam, Evelyn had provoked Victor into a rage, using Liam's presence to escalate the conflict. When the argument turned physical, Liam alleged that Evelyn retrieved the revolver in self-defense, a claim that conflicted with forensic evidence. His account cast Evelyn as the primary instigator, but his credibility remained questionable. The prosecution dismantled Liam's narrative by highlighting inconsistencies and presenting witnesses who testified about his erratic behavior on the night of the party. A neighbor recounted seeing Liam pacing outside the Caldwell estate hours before the murder, his demeanor agitated. Financial records revealed large withdrawals from his account, suggesting premeditation rather than spontaneity. By the end of his testimony, Liam's role as both an accomplice and a potential victim of Evelyn's manipulation became a pivotal aspect of the case, leaving the jury grappling with the complexity of their intertwined fates. After weeks of dramatic testimony and heated arguments, the jury retired to deliberate on Evelyn Caldwell's fate. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, the weight of the trial's revelations hanging heavy in the air. On April 15, 2015, the jury returned with their decision, delivering a verdict that sent shockwaves through Evergreen Heights. Evelyn was found guilty of second-degree murder, her actions deemed premeditated but influenced by the volatile circumstances of her marriage and affair. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 15 years. The judge's stern words underscored the gravity of her betrayal and the devastating impact of her choices. Liam Barrett, whose trial followed shortly after, was convicted of being an accomplice and received a 10-year sentence. His testimony, while damning, was not enough to absolve him of his role in the tragedy. The courtroom's atmosphere was electric as the sentences were read. Evelyn's stoic demeanor cracked only briefly, a flash of emotion crossing her face as the reality of her punishment sank in. Liam appeared resigned, his once confident facade replaced by visible regret. The media's relentless coverage of the trial ensured that the case remained a topic of national conversation, a cautionary tale of passion and greed spiraling out of control. The fallout from Victor Caldwell's murder rippled far beyond the courtroom, leaving lasting scars on everyone involved. Evelyn's imprisonment marked the end of her reign as a socialite, her name synonymous with scandal and betrayal. Her once loyal friends distanced themselves, and Evergreen Heights struggled to move past the shadow cast by the high-profile crime. Liam Barrett's sentence brought little solace to Victor's family, who continued to grapple with unanswered questions about his true motives. His disappearance from the community left a void filled with whispers and speculation. Meanwhile, Victor's business empire underwent significant upheaval, with his siblings stepping in to salvage the family's legacy amid tarnished reputations and financial instability. Detective Morales, hailed as a hero for her tenacity in solving the case, reflected on the emotional toll it had taken. The complexity of the relationships and the depth of deception had tested her resolve, but justice, in her eyes, had been served. For the residents of Evergreen Heights, the ordeal served as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath polished exteriors. The Caldwell mansion, once a symbol of wealth and prestige, stood empty, its grandeur overshadowed by its tragic history. As the dust settled, the question lingered. Could the tragedy have been averted? The tangled web of lies, manipulation, and greed left no easy answers, only lessons etched into the lives forever changed by that fateful New Year's Eve. As the gavel struck and the courtroom fell silent, the story of Victor Caldwell's tragic demise reached its conclusion, but not without leaving scars that would forever mark those involved. Evelyn's calculated choices, Liam's obsessive dissent, and the tangled web of betrayal that bound them serve as a chilling reminder of how ambition, greed, and secrets can destroy lives. The opulent Caldwell mansion, once a symbol of power and success, now stands as a haunting monument to the dark truths it concealed. But even as the verdict is delivered, questions linger. Could this tragedy have been averted? What hidden motives and unspoken fears remain buried with Victor? At Silent Crime Case, we know every case leaves behind whispers of the untold, and this one is no exception. If this story captivated you, make sure to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And join us next time, where another silent case speaks volumes. Until then, stay vigilant and remember, not everything is as it seems.